Today's lesson is learning how to read pictographs. Sometimes they're also called picture graphs, so you could see it written either way. But in this book, you can see they use the word pictographs. Let's look at some of the important information. It says, a pictograph uses pictures or parts of pictures to represent data. This is the most important part. The key explains what each picture represents. So you always have to look at the key. Right down here, we have what's called a key. Each of the cross skis equals 2 resorts. Each single one equals 1 resort. So the key to understanding a pictograph is the key. The key is the key. So always remember, if you're looking at a pictograph, to look at the key. Now let's take a look at this question. It says, are there more resorts in Detroit area or the Upper Peninsula? So let's look at the pictograph. Here's the Detroit area. Here's the Upper Peninsula. Now even, a little tyke could probably tell you which one shows more just by looking at it. Okay, so are there more in the Detroit area or more in the Upper Peninsula? So pause it and then we'll come back and answer for you. Okay, so now you probably all answered that there are more in the Upper Peninsula. Clearly you can see that it has many more skis than the Detroit area does. Okay, now let's take a look at a different pictograph. Okay, so here we have another pictograph. This one is about average lifespan, and it appears that they're talking about certain animals. You see dog, chipmunk, black bear, guinea pig, squirrel. Now remember, the key to understanding a pictograph is what? If you said the key is the key, that's correct. Right down here is the key. Usually the key is underneath it, but sometimes the key could be next to it or even above it, but it's someplace close to it. Okay, so this key says each hourglass equals 4 years. So when we're counting these hourglasses, we can't go 1, 2, 3. What do we have to count by? Well, it says 4. So when we count these, we have to count by 4s. 4, 8, 12. Okay, so don't forget, the key is the key. Now let's take a look at some of the questions. Well, here we go. I think we already answered number 4. What does each hourglass on the graph represent? Okay, pause it. We'll come back and answer it. Okay, so each hourglass, well, that's what the key is telling you. Each hourglass represents 4 years. So that would be your answer to that question. Each hourglass equals 4 years, and that's going to be the key to understanding this whole pictograph, or if you want to call it a picture graph, you can call it that as well. Let's go over to the next question now. Number 5, take a look at that one. What is the average lifespan of a dog? Okay, so let's go over and look for dog. And the whole thing is about the average lifespan. So let's count for dog. 1, 2, 3. Am I kidding? Well, pause and see if you can figure out whether I'm joking. Now we're back, and you probably figured out that I was joking. The average lifespan of a dog is not 3 years. What did I forget to do? I forgot the key. The key is you're supposed to go every 4 years, so you need to count by 4. So if we do that, 4, 8, 12. The average lifespan of a dog is 12 years old. Now that seems about right. That's about how long an average dog would live. Okay, so don't forget, the key is the key when reading a pictograph. That is so important. Because if we didn't read the key, we'd just say, 1, 2, 3 years. That's about how long dogs live on average. But clearly that doesn't even make sense. Okay, let's go back to the next question. Let's go to number 6. Which lives longer, a black bear or a squirrel? Okay, so we're comparing black bear to squirrel and figuring out which one lives longer. Okay, so here we have a squirrel. Here we have a black bear. Which one do you think has the most information? Pause it and we'll come back. Obviously, you figured this one out quickly. It clearly that a bear lives longer. It has more data than what the squirrel has, so that's telling you its average lifespan is longer. So black bears live longer than squirrels. That's a pretty simple one, isn't it? Okay, let's go to the next question. Number 7. Do any animals on the graph have the same average lifespan? How do you know? So 2 parts to the question. Let's first look and see if we can find any that have the same average lifespan. Okay, take a look at it. We'll pause it and come back. Okay, now we're back. You're looking for any animals that have the same average lifespan. So if they had the same average lifespan, the data next to them would be exactly the same as the data next to another one. Now this one has 3, this one has 1.5, this one has 4.5, this one has 1, this one has 2.5. Are any of them the same? No, they're not. Okay? So the first part of the question was, do any animals on the graph have the same average lifespan? Well, your answer would be no. We can't forget the second part of the question, though. So let's go back to the second part of the question. How do you know? Well, how did we know that none of them have the same average lifespan? Pause it, and then we'll come back. Okay, so if you said that none of them have the same data, or the same amount of information, or the same amount of hourglasses, that would be explaining how we know. Okay, it doesn't show the same thing. If it were exactly the same, it would show exactly the same, and it simply doesn't do that. So one more time before we end this lesson about pictographs. What is the key to understanding every pictograph? The key is the key. We're looking at it nice and close here for this example. And this key says each hourglass equals 4 years. So don't forget, when it comes to understanding pictographs, also known as picture graphs, the key is the key.